Hari Om. Although we've concluded speaking on the words of Mahatma Gandhi regarding prayer, I've been asked to give an example of what he spoke on faith. For though the Gandhiji's life was exemplary, the fundamentals of his life were based on both prayer and faith. And it was these things which brought his life to such a saintly condition. So from the book All Men Are Brothers, which is in a sense his autobiography, he writes thus: It is faith that steers us through stormy seas, faith that moves mountains, and faith that jumps across the ocean. That faith is nothing but a living, wide-awake consciousness of God within. This is probably the most fundamentally religious and yogic thing that we can come across, where even though we read in the Vedas, the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, even if we read the words of the Buddha, we understand that the masters who have gone before us have stressed that it is attention, concentration, and wide-awake consciousness that is necessary for us to pierce through this veil of seeming sorrow to understand that in reality, God is within and without. So Gandhiji is speaking of this very truth when he says, faith is nothing but a living, wide-awake consciousness of God within. He who has achieved that faith wants nothing. Bodily diseased, he is spiritually healthy. Physically poor, he rolls in spiritual riches. The forms are many, but the informing spirit is one. How can there be room for distinctions of high and low where there is this all-embracing fundamental unity underlying all outward diversity? It is this faith which gives one strength to carry on. And in Gandhiji's own life, surely it was this faith coupled with the prayer which nourished him in times of need and uplifted him in times of elation. But it was the faith that gave him the true piercing vision to the truth that underlying all was the one fundamental presence of God. He continues, for it is a fact meeting you at every step in daily life that the fundamental unity underlying all diversity is God and God alone. So we can see this at every step of life, that it is God who is urging us forward in times when we need to move and grow and change. And it is God who causes us to be silent and serene in times when we need to commune with Him and to refresh ourselves and to relinquish the reins of our life to God. There is a great saying in the north of India where it's turned into a song and they sing it throughout all, from east to west in the north. Jahi Radhe Rakhe Ram. This is saying, give the reins of your life to Ram. It's actually, give the kite string of your life to Ram. Thus, when you're tossed from one side of life to another, you will know that it is the Lord who is holding you, who is actually tugging you to be moved from one side to the other. It is not fate, it is God alone. So Gandhiji concludes by saying, for that is a fact meeting you at every step of life, the final goal, of all religious and all those who follow a religious way is to realize this essential oneness. So though many in our present day do speak of God as one and oneness is the fundamental nature, Gandhiji himself brought forth this truth in the most dynamic way. For he whose life was both hardship and bliss and purity, it was driven by his faith and understanding and his desire to actually unite with that oneness, again, with a wide awake consciousness which was developed and honed and brought to perfection by his constant remembrance of God, by his constant remembrance of Sri Rama, or the Lord, through his name. And thus he became, like Hanuman, the greatest devotee of God, who was constantly in God's presence, giving the rein of his life over to the Lord and saying, "O Lord, thy will be done."